Yes, ma'am.
All right, excellent. So welcome everyone tonight, both here in person and online, and to my YouTubers. Tonight is the first of a series that I've really been looking forward to doing, which will be on rune crafting, the runes. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Birch von Baum. I am a vulva practicing within the heathen tradition, which is a form of Germanic witchcraft. I work with runes, with shape-shifting, with Scyther and Galder magic, and I'm really looking forward to sharing with you all here in the Grove about some of the rune lore and magic that is so very near and dear to my heart. For those of you who will watch me in the bloats, you know you'll see a little bit in the next 6 months about what I've done and learn to do some of it for yourself too, which will be very exciting. Carl, can you please pull up the PowerPoint?
Yes, I will be.
So if you're here in person tonight, you have your bag. Inside the bag are 24 blank wooden discs, which we'll be using to create the runes out of. If you're online tonight, I have this PowerPoint set up to help you follow along. If you're at home and you want to create runes with us, what you'll need are 24 blank wood or, really any material that you can write on, but we are using wood discs, and you can make them from home. If you choose not to make a set or you have a set already and you want to follow along, as we go through the guided meaning of each rune, you can still pull one out of your existing rune set and, use it to follow along as we go as well. And you can always create your rune set later if you wish, if you don't have it with you tonight, you want to make it later. This will be up on our YouTube channel, and I'll be sure to spread it far and wide. And it'll also be available on our website, abillenusgrove.org. Okay, next slide. There we go. Okay. So before we begin making our runes, I want to give you a brief introduction to the Elder Futhark, which we'll be using in this series, and explaining a little bit of why I chose it and how it's become such a popular choice for people who are using the runes to work with. Because there's actually more than one set of runes, but Elder Futhark is the one I personally work with and the one that is most often used among the heathen community and rune workers that I know. But there are different types of runes. So just to give you a brief, you can leave them in the bag for right now. Yeah. So the oldest examples of the Elder Futhark that survive are from around 100 AD, roughly 2,000 years ago. But the vast majority of writing that is done with runes, like the rune stones you'll often see pictured, are with either the Anglo-Saxon or younger Futhark during what is popularly known as the Viking Age. So the Elder Futhark is not the Viking runes that a lot of people like to call it. It's actually the pre-Viking runes. This was what was developed in Central Europe and Northern Europe around the time of their first contact with the Romans, Julius Caesar, Tacitus, the like. So we do not know, but it's strongly suspected that the divination described by the Romans, who first met the Germans in what is today Germany and Denmark, Switzerland area, was done using the Elder Futhark. All we know is that at significant times, such as before a battle, there was usually a group of priests who were seen casting lots and using those lots to determine what the outcome of the battle would be. And Julius Caesar describes it happening before his first battle with the Germanic tribes, which is probably the first known example of the runes, which would have been about 200 years before the oldest surviving Elder Futhark that we have. Tacitus, the Roman writer, describes the same activity 150 years later. So it's clearly an established tradition. We just don't know when exactly this tradition started or what it looked like because, like I said, this was lots cast on a fruit-bearing, usually a pear tree. Pear tree wood does not usually last 2,000 years unless it gets very, very lucky. So since those lots were never drawn and the markings on them were never described, we only have our guess as to what was actually on them. But the Elder Futhark is the best guess that archaeologists have. We do know that it evolved as a writing system shortly after those divination events. And later, it evolved into the Younger Futhark, Frisian, Anglo-Saxon, which had both magical and alphabetical uses in the recorded sources from the Viking Age, starting around 700s up to around the 1200s, when most things were written down. We also know that there's historical parallels for oracle writing transferring itself into secular writing. The same thing happened with the Chinese oracle bones. It started off with marks on tortoise shells and eventually evolved into the Chinese characters that are still used today. So since it's likely that since the Germanic people at that time would not have had a written language, but as society developed and came into more contact with literate sources, including the Christian expansion and the Romans, that if they were looking for a way to have a writing system, it's a logical step that if you already have a way of writing on wood and stone, that you would then transfer that to writing your language down. So that's probably where it happened. All right, next slide. Okay, the second point I want to bring up before we begin is to consider the relationship between a word and a thing. Cat. If I say cat, you will think both of a cute feline creature, like the one pictured there, who is my darling Sphinxie. And also on some level, your brain will make the association with the letter C-A-T, because that is how we spell cat in English. So on some subconscious level, your brain is already making a link between cat, the little love devil, and a certain kind of catness, the essence of what a cat is, which is called upon by those letters and sounds used in that combination. We don't really think about this because of how often we use and read the written word. But taken in a context of both magic and early literacy, before most people know how to read and write, especially in this context, throughout the world, words have a much greater sense of power attached to them. And words that are simply spoken are just floating in the air. The minute you finish speaking a sentence, that sentence is gone. Write that sentence down, and now it becomes permanent. So you can see how easily that line gets crossed. And we do this all the time. How often have you been doing some kind of spell work or intention? You write it down, you cast into the fire, you bury it into the earth. We still do this same thing all the time. It's just sort of slid into the folk magic tradition. So you'll often hear in the community arguments about, oh, is the Futhark, it's an alphabet, or no, it's magical symbols. There's no dividing line once you break it down to this level. It's both. It is both a written alphabet in which you can write down words and names and things, and it is also a magical system. Once you understand what the letters mean, you can use them as sounds, use them literally as a sort of alphabet where maybe you write things out phonetically based on the sounds, but as through this class and other work, you can learn the symbols that each rune has innate to its own power. And so you can use it as both. So we're going to cover a lot of what I just talked about, words and meanings and spell work more during class 3, patterns of rune magic. But for right now, before you begin creating your rune set, I really want you to have that, at the back of your head, because what you'll be creating here is both an alphabet and a series of magical symbols simultaneously. Next slide. Okay, so before we begin, I want each of you, if you have your bag of runes, to take it in your hand. Okay. Yeah, just hold on to it. You got the tiles out, it's okay, I'll give her a second to get them back in. And a couple of us did it. It's okay.
Oh, definitely go to bed on, so I never did.
Yeah, all right. So just hold on to it, put it in your hands. I want you to hold it close to your chest, like right above your heart, so it can feel your heartbeat. And I want you to just silently, in your mind and in your heart, introduce yourself to these wooden pieces, which will become your runes. Introduce yourself. If you have any intentions or wishes or hopes from this rune class, you can let them know. Because these runes aren't just pieces of wood, they're going to become your partners and teachers, and you guys are going to learn about the runes together over the next few months. Then when you're ready, you can set your bag down on your lap, but keep it close to you. And I'm going to read us a little something. So Carl, you can go to the next slide. And I'm going to read the opening of the rune song from the modern day Havamal by Domhnall MacRonane. This is my I love this version of the Havamal. Havamal means the words of the High One. It is the word spoken by Odin, passing along advice. The third book, which is called the Rune Song, tells the story of how Odin discovered the runes. So, I hung on Yggdrasil for 9 days and 9 nights, sacrificing myself to Odin, myself, with a spear pierced into me. The roots of the tree run deep within the wells of the Norns. I had not one sip of water, not one bite of food in those 9 days and 9 nights. At the end of my ordeal, I looked down and I took the runes. Screaming with all my soul, I took them, and I fell from Yggdrasil. I learned 9 spells from the son of Boltorn, the father of Bestla. I earned a drink of honey wine from the mead of poetry. I gained wisdom, thoughts racing, knowledge pounding in my head. The universe, the 9 worlds, all becoming clearer to me. You will find the runes I, Odin, found hanging from Yggdrasil, runes who are imbued with my very blood. Odin carved a set for the gods. Dane carved the elves their own set. Dvalin making the dwarves set, and Azvith for the Jotnar themselves. I carved some for myself as well. Do you know how to use them? Do you know what they mean? Do you know how to divine with them? Do you know the magics they contain? Do you know how to bless them? It is better to never pray to the gods than it is to be constantly in their ear. All gifts require an exchange in equal measure. It is better to give nothing than to offer more than you are prepared to give. Odin marked these words in the dark times. So that is verses 138 to 145. And just calling your attention to the last 2 verses. The questions that are asked in 144. By the end of these 6 months, you'll be able to answer all of them with yes. You'll know how to use them. You'll know what they mean. You'll know how to divine with them. You'll know the magics they contain, and you'll know how to bless them. And of 145, it is good to have runes to be your partner in those dark times, because ultimately you can rely on others in your community, but you must also be able to rely on yourself and those you trust. And the runes can help guide you through those dark times. They can offer advice and guidance and support to you so you can find your way through them into the light and not need to rely upon favors from the gods. If you don't.
I like that.
Okay. So, all right, next slide. So we're almost ready to start making our runes. I just want to kind of go over a little bit of the procedure so everyone knows what to expect tonight and also next month, which will be a guided rune crafting class in 2 parts. So 12 runes per class for a total of the 24 runes of the Elder Futhark. Energy, intent, and focus are all very important when you're making your runes, because this is a magic working. That's why we're not going to try and do all 24 in one sitting. Be a little bit too much, probably. So we're going to break it in half and do half today and half next month. So as I announce the name of each rune, which I'll do first as we go through them, I'll pause, and you can just take a piece of wood from your bag at random, and this will be the one that you use for that rune. Then, to show you what it looks like, I have this very high-tech board, which I will draw on, and Carl, for those who are online, will play a video for the first time. Then I will give a brief description of each rune.
I can see that.
And yeah, so you can see either one, whichever one is easier. If you're all the way down there, it might be easier to watch the PowerPoint, I don't know. Otherwise, if you're up here, you have this. So don't draw on your disc until I finish. Just let me talk and just listen and hold on to whichever piece you're going to be drawing on. Then after I describe it, I'll draw it a second time on here. Carl will play the video again, so that way you get a good look. And then we'll take a moment. Each of you will use your Sharpie to draw the rune on the wooden piece. Once everyone has it drawn, then we'll move on to the next one. And we'll do it again until we've done our first 12. Okay? All right. So next slide.
Bingo.
I just realized I'm really short. I can't reach the
You just
table.
figure this out? Okay.
Just real-
I mean, table width wise.
Yes, of course. So the Elder Futhark is divided into 3 8s. The first 8 is called usually phrase 8. It is centered around the material world. And like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, these sorts of basics must be met first before you can go on to the later 8s. The runes of the first 8, so the first 8 runes, you can get the language, are Fehu, Oruz, Thurisaz, Ansus, Raido, Kenaz, Gebo, and Munjo.
Wow.
So next slide. All right, so our first rune is Fehu. So let me go ahead and draw Fehu here. And Carl can.
Yeah, the PowerPoint, what is it?
Okay, so there's Fehu.
And then we put it on a,
Yes, at the end. Yep.
Oh, no drawing. Okay.
Yep. So
not
go
yet.
ahead.
I got you.
Yep, don't draw it yet. Don't draw it yet.
Okay,
So all I'm gonna talk about, and then we can draw it at the end. All right?
just tell me what to draw it.
Yep, I will say when to draw.
Thank you.
So first is Fehu. Fehu is often translated as cattle. It also means like fee. It comes to the same word as our word fee. It means money, transferable wealth. Reason why it often is translated as cattle is because in the ancient world, cattle were a very visible sign of wealth. So in the same way that you see the fancier your car that you drive, the more money you probably have. The more cattle you had, the more money you have. Same concept. So this is mobile wealth, and to the modern day mind, this rune was for symbolize your debit card, your checkbook. How much do you have in the bank? So you notice, as you do the 2 upward slashes, I always like to draw them moving upward, because that symbolizes you want your money to grow, right? You
Yeah.
don't want your money to go down.
No.
No, right? No, you don't.
Really?
No.
So the end result does look a little bit like a letter F, just with slightly raised branches, which is also its sound. It's a hard F noise, like fee, fi, fo, fo.
And it's, how do you pronounce it? Feo.
Fehu,
Fehu.
fehu,
Faye.
Fe.
fehu.
Fehu.
F-E-A-H-U. F-E-H-U. Fehu.
Oh.
Okay, so again, just to kind of get the idea of the drawing, get the line, then you get a couple of upward strokes there. So you can go ahead and draw your rune now.
And write the name of the rune underneath it,
Um,
or my,
I guess
very
so.
not.
On the back.
What about?
Okay,
Yeah, we're on the back, I guess.
I'm just, I know me, I'm not. I'm gonna look back at it and go, what is this again?
That's actually not a bad idea.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, then you could even use it as mnemonic, like, the memory game.
Mhm.
If you want to learn the
Hey.
names, you could just flip it around.
Flashcards.
Are we making huge or flashcards? Yes.
Yes. All right. Everybody's ready? Okay. I will. Yeah, we have a little bit of water.
No, okay.
It's Tuesday. Take a drip. Right. Right. Just like, what was it, being in school again?
Mhm.
All right, so our next rune is Uruz. Oh. Uruz. Uruz is the rune of the Aurochs, the now extinct wild bull of Europe. It went extinct only in the 20th century. It's also a water rune and a healing rune. It has water through its links with Audumbla, who was the very first cow in the Norse mythology. She was the cow of the very first being Ymir, who lived in Niflheim and who licked the first Jotun giants out of the ice. So from that you get, and she also fed Ymir with her milk. Its shape, you kind of look at it, you can kind of see like a bull's horns lowered, ready to charge a little bit with that shape there. You see it? So, and then this is also a healing and water cycle. Think about, like, here's the water on the earth, it gets pulled up to the clouds, travels, and it comes down again as rain. And when you work with this rune with healing, you follow the same pattern. You draw the energy up from the earth, and then you pass it down to where it's needed. But we'll talk more about this rune and its healing powers and purposes in the later class on rune magic. So that's Urus. I'll draw it one more time so you can see.
Ah, that's-
Looks like up. Slant it a little bit and then other horn pointing down. You're gonna charge.
Okay.
Urus. Once everybody is ready, I will. Everyone got their Urus? Okay. So the third rune, Alba, which is the third rune? Thorn, Thurisaz.
Stone.
Yes, that's number 3. So this is Alba's favorite. Thurisaz. It's one line like that. You get the little triangle here,
Is stone with sass.
and it's called Thurisaz. In the Anglo-Saxon Futhark, it's called Thorn, which is where we call it Thorn. And little English language history lesson. This rune is why we have the TH in the English alphabet, in the English writing.
Nice.
So whenever you see thud or there or
With
The-
that ye old tavern, it was because they were trying to replace the
yep,
thorn with the Y.
yep, they couldn't quite decide which one they wanted it to be, Y or TH, and TH eventually won. But it's because they were trying to duplicate this letter, which was not in the Roman alphabet.
So maybe names with TH have thorn in them.
Yeah. Exactly. So the pointy triangle is what gives it that nickname of the thorn. And it's also a good example of how this protective rune works. It's a very defensive rune. Okay, you put it somewhere where you want to protect something like your house during a hurricane ritual, and it will keep all the bad stuff away from touching your home. And it's a very strong rune. If this rune were a person, it would be a football player, especially a really big, like linebacker sized football player who's ready to tackle anyone who gets too close to the quarterback. And I hope that's an accurate description because I don't play football.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know either, so I believe you.
So,
Yes, you're right. I think.
you know, you want to, he's the guy who's over there making sure no one touches the quarterback.
Sure.
That's
Mhm.
him.
No.
Goes,
That one guy, yeah.
knocks him down. That guy.
No,
So-
right over my head.
Yeah, yeah. So, in other words, it defends you by stopping anything from getting too close. It's a prickly thorn bush that you can put up into your warts. If anything tries to get in, it's gonna get snagged.
We draw this one?
It's a protection one, huh?
Yeah, so it's like a line and it's a little triangle, not, or almost. But yeah, this is also Thor's rune. Thor, of course, big, strong guy, defends Asgard from the giant with the help of his hammer Mjolnir. So if you're working with Thor, this is definitely the rune to have. And so, yeah, you just draw it with that line. You put a thorn on the end. And it will protect you. Anyone who's ever had to go prune a blackberry or rose bush knows exactly how this rune feels if you get too close.
Yeah.
Bougainvillea.
Bougainvillea.
Oh my
A
god.
bougainvillea,
They look so
yes.
pretty until you go, I didn't
Yeah,
know.
same thing here.
Of your windows, so nobody climbs
It's,
through.
it's pretty.
I had a bush in one of my houses and I didn't know, first time. Until I got too close to it, too close. It's like, oh, this is fun. And how do you say that? Thuris.
Thurisaz.
Thurisaz, yeah.
Thurisaz. Thur like Thor, but with the U. Thursday.
Come again, one?
Thursday.
Fur.
Thursday. But Thurisaz.
Thurisaz.
Same root as our word Thursday, because it's all Thor.
Thurisaz.
That's it.
Thurisaz.
You have to repeat it a million times before you it rolls off the tongue.
Right?
Literally.
Well, just write it down on the back of your room if you need to, and it'll come to you. It's a good rune. That's also the rune I blame for my epic performance in a Oak King Holly King battle that broke a stick and left the Holly King pretty terrified.
You shouldn't be ashamed of that. That was awesome. You should be proud.
Yep.
So that was me calling upon Thurisaz before I began. I've only learned later what a mistake that was, but a good mistake. So next rune.
We're having a battery change.
Okay, battery change. No.
I don't know that, Rune. How do you draw that?
It looks like a dead battery.
Right size.
And then you-
In the drawer, you never know.
Elder doc.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could put a Thurisaz on there because Thor controls the lightning. So you just send the Thurisaz into the battery and channel lightning into it. That makes sense, right? And then Carl freaks out because he's an electrician and suddenly the mouse starts spewing electricity everywhere.
Just use the keys,
There's a key.
the keyboard
Keyboard.
keys.
Oh,
Just use the
To draw?
keyboard.
No, to change the picture.
But he's drawing there so they can see.
No, she is. It's on the video.
No, but on the
He's drawing it on the
PowerPoint
screen.
video,
He's
you need the mouse.
He's not drawing on there.
He has one.
He recorded.
I recorded the drawing.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right, then you
Yeah.
have to go.
It's a recorded drawing.
Just use the arrow keys.
Hold on, so when you're
Uh-oh,
writing there, it
it's
shows
skip.
in the computer.
Well, not immediately. No. I
That's pre-recorded.
did a pre-recorded video of me drawing all the runes. I recorded myself drawing all the runes and I put them into the PowerPoint.
I thought he was using that
It's a very
old school
succinct,
program.
The whiteboard thing.
No,
And
that would be pretty cool, but I do not have that kind of tech.
Do like a
Okay.
smart board kind of thing.
Yeah, so, okay. Once the technical issues are resolved, we can go ahead on suits.
Try the arrow key.
He did.
There it goes, there it goes.
Sometimes they just get lost in cyberspace.
I think it's
That,
supposed to
when you're
spoil.
sitting there using
It's
the
stuck
mouse,
in
you don't
here.
know the mouse is,
There we
you're
go.
just doing this. for 10 minutes.
Yes.
It's me most days.
There we go.
On suits,
All
right.
Does it mean trial?
right?
You need dead battery? Okay.
Well,
Sorry.
Adelina, this is your favorite rune. On suits.
I thought he was drawing.
I mean, he's probably just like, I'm not power.
On suits.
Okay, Microsoft thanks.
You back in that Microsoft thing. There you go. Yeah.
Okay, so Ansus. Ansus is one of the runes that's specifically linked to Odin. In this case, it refers to the divine breath of Odin as he inspires us to magic, to madness, to poetry, and to human life. His older aspects include power over wind and air, and Ansus is a reflection of this magic. When the first two humans were supposedly made out of ash and elm trees, Odin gave them breath. Ansus is also the breaker of bonds, because nothing can hold back the wind. More interestingly for us in the Grove, this is Avelina's favorite rune. Its meaning, implying divine air, matches her name, and it starts with an A, which is the first letter of her name. So if you want to gift Avelina anything with a rune on it, she would like it to have an Ansus. And you notice Ansus looks a lot like Feihu,
Mhm.
but the way to tell them apart, Feihu's upwards arms means you want your money to grow up. You want your money to go up, bank balance to go up. While the downward arms look like a cloak blowing in the wind. You see like a little person standing here, here's their cloak blowing in the wind. So that's how you tell an Ansus apart from a Feihu. So it's just a single,
That's wind.
yep, it's the wind. One line and a cloak blowing in the wind.
Ansus.
Just gonna put wind underneath it.
Just the lines. Well, you gotta remember, these runes were originally drawn on wood and stone. So straight lines were the way to go. Trying to do curvy lines, while carving, very difficult. So a lot of the lines were are all fairly straight. Okay. Yep, so Raiho is the next rune.
Oh, there we go.
Yep. So
How do you say that?
you just call it Rido.
Rido?
That looks like raid.
Does kind of look like raid.
Rido.
It also has roots with both our modern word road, as in a street, and road, as in I rode in my car down the road. The Proto-Indo-European root word ride meant to ride a horse. So modern applications of this rune would cover your car and the street, as well as more esoteric meanings. This is one of the runes I call upon when I have to drive to Miami and I don't want to die.
No, like, you say Miami, it's like, what? No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I will not drive into Miami without calling upon this rune and a couple of the other ones, because I am convinced that the Miami streets are out to get me.
So it's
Probably are.
like sorry.
You're good. I said they probably are.
Yeah. What was your question, Lulu?
It's just like a traveling.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yes,
ask
this
the
is-
same thing.
yep,
This
this
is
is-
related to travel.
Anything
Even
related
a
to
plane
travel,
or anything.
airplane,
Going on a
yes.
trip.
Exactly, any kind of traveling. It also refers to the day, because the sun travels in a road from sunrise to sunset, and the moon travels from moonrise to moonset. So it can be used in rune spells for shorter periods of time, anything lasting up to the length of a 24-hour day. It's also good for astral travel and traveling on through the different worlds. So if you're astral traveling, you can use this one, and we'll discuss all this more in the rune magic class. But yeah, any type of journey you have to take, this is the rune to look for. So it looks, like a pointy capital R, which is pretty much how you draw it. Just like an R, but with all the soft bits turned pointy.
Like you really just dribbled.
Down first is usually fine. It's a little easier, at least for me, to draw it down first.
Is the one line longer than the other?
No, it's not supposed to
No?
be.
Okay.
It's, never mind, I'm drawing this on a whiteboard, so, or
No,
blackboard.
I barely can see that, I'm just asking too, so.
Yeah, no, that's okay, yeah,
No.
it's meant to be like level with each
Okay.
other, just, you know. But again, this was a route that if you're drawing them on a piece of wood, try to carve them, getting the exact same length might be.
Not exactly easy.
Easier said than done.
So I should carve this one in my car, right?
Yeah, yes. I usually sketch it on the dashboard of my car, or
Okay.
I trace it on my steering wheel.
Now you're in Panda.
We'll see.
And I think the board
may have
will
just-
actually.
You've been of service, you might have.
Outside figure, so.
Mike.
We'll try the white one. Silly of me. All right. Tenos is our next rune. Yeah, that looks good. So Kenos is a very interesting rune when you start to dig into its meanings. It can mean fire, or ulcer, or knowledge. The Scottish ken for understand, the German kennen to know, are both cognates of the name of this rune. But what does a fire have to do with an ulcer? Fire here works as a symbol for knowledge, for any form of controlled fire. So you think about when you learn something, that's like lighting a fire in your mind, spreading, light into the darkness as a symbol. All right, knowledge devours. It can devour wood, it can devour ignorance. And what about the ulcer?
Well, that feels like fire.
That hurts too, huh?
Right, it hurts in a really twisted way. It shines a light where light's not usually going. And it exposes things like knowledge or fire seeping into dark spaces.
Mhm.
But Kenos then brings healing into its wake, because when you know how to treat an injury or a wound, you can take care of it. And so, along with Uruz, this is one of the runes most often called upon when you're doing healing magic. It Uruz might revitalize and restore strength, but this is where you got to know what to do. You got to know how to treat the injury, which herbs to use, which medicines to try. All of that is covered under Kenos, finding things out or learning.
You have power when you know your direction.
Exactly. So yeah, you could even use it really well with Rido in that case if you wanted to,
It's focused
yeah, exactly.
like that.
Mhm. And its rune shape reflects this. You can see if this is a fire, it's a fire like a torch. It's directed. It's not a wildfire going any which way. It's, like here will be like the flame and it's spreading its light out in a given direction. And so sometimes you'll see its meaning given as torch rather than fire. It's just because of that same concept. It's not just any fire, it's a fire that is being utilized and directed by a person. So its shape is like that little sideways V. If you think mathematically, it's like your greater than or equal sign.
Less than.
Less than.
Less than, yeah,
I
there's a
saw
little
Pac-Man.
crocodile over here.
Sorry.
I think.
I saw Pac-Man.
You know what? If you see a Pac-Man,
Okay.
kitty, it is a Pac-Man.
I don't know why I saw that. I was like,
Well, it's, or what was that game that you like collected, like the little snake game that you
oh yeah.
ate the little thing with the
Eggs.
snake? Yeah,
What the name of the game actually was called Snake, but yeah.
yeah, it was called Snake.
That's hilarious.
I played it on a PC when I was like yay tall.
Or still one.
In the froggy?
You just finished spelling computer.
Yes, we did. So you notice, yeah, the first runes that we spelled, Futhark, which is where it comes from.
Yeah.
Can I ask a
Mhm.
question? So for this one, are we ever gonna have one that is the greater than? Because depending on how you throw this down, you don't know which is up or down.
In a matter of speaking, we will, but it will be Jera at the end.
Okay,
Because
well,
they'll
no,
have-
just because
they'll
if
have
I
two.
threw
If
this
you're
down on the
like
table,
that,
it could go like this,
that
or
she knows
it
whether
could
she
go
should
like
interrupt.
that.
Well,
down.
we're gonna explain all this in detail during the divination class.
Okay,
Because, yeah, when we get into divination, which will be number 3, actually, magic is number 4.
If you
Number
know, you
3
know,
is
if not.
Divination, because, yeah, divining with the runes. Yeah, because of the way that a lot of them are arranged, I'll cover in more detail in that class.
okay,
It won't look exactly like the opposite.
okay,
Yeah, it won't be
Okay.
exactly
It'll
the
look
opposite.
different.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll
yeah,
make a little sign in the other.
Yeah,
one.
there's
that's
nothing-
why I'm wondering if I need to mark it some other kind of way.
Yeah,
Because I didn't
That's why
write,
the-
I didn't write my name
Yeah.
on the back. I don't wanna write my names. I wanna
Listen, they
see my
can't be
kids
mad
write
if I have
about
to
it.
put name tags on them, okay?
I
Yeah.
just know myself and I can't do it.
I can't write that small, screwed up.
Yeah. So there won't be another one that's exactly opposite.
1,
Alright.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yep, so now we're on number 7.
Halfway there.
Yep, we're on number 7. See, you see why I'm doing this in 2 parts?
Yeah.
So the next rune is Gabo, which means gift.
Yeah,
It
both.
looks like an X.
Hey, I can draw that.
Yes.
This is funny.
X marks the spot. So this one also has a very fun Indo-European root, which is Gabe, which is the same as our English word gift. Gabo encompasses everything to do with reciprocity and sharing and gift giving. So, at Yuletide or whatever you celebrate, when you give presents to your friends and they give presents to you, and everyone has that warm, happy feeling of, or when you watch like little kids, tear into their birthday gifts because they're 3 years old and they attack it like ravenous vultures.
Gabo is present.
Gable is present, exactly. It's often also used in like weddings and friendships and initiations and offerings because it encompasses that entire sensation of hospitality, love, sharing, coming together. You see, it's literally 2 lines, crossing each other. Everything is equal here. Because of that, everything is freely exchanged. And especially in the Northern European culture, the idea of giving and visiting and hospitality is extremely important. And this encompasses that very clearly. And if you think about it, your life and your happiness.
If I may ask a question, the X as it stands now, the ruins means bringing together. Do you know when or why the situation changed? So now we are more commonly thinking that X means no.
I was about to say, ask that.
That's a good question.
Yeah, when,
I don't know. I'm not sure.
because now if you, yes or no, no, it's an X.
Action.
I mean, it could just be that as it moved from being gable, the g sound,
Mhm.
X does not show up very often in our language. Everything with an X in English pretty much has an origin from another language. Xenophobia or whatever, xylophone. Those aren't native words to the British Isles. So maybe that's why. But I'm not sure. That's a good question.
Yeah.
But obviously the g sound, we hear that all the time. Give and things. So for Gabo, you simply draw an X. And this is why, of course, when I say that, time about divination and direction, it can get complicated because there are runes like this where literally no matter what you do to it, it will always come up right.
Right.
It doesn't have a reverse.
Okay.
Which I think is really part of its charm and its power, because no matter what you do, it's always gonna come up on the bright side.
I'll do the reverse.
Gonna put that one together, that one.
Yeah.
Dislike it.
It's like playing puzzles.
I guess that's just a person.
I love
My
mahjong.
back is hurting, so I'm like grabbing this.
I don't know how the ladies play actually on the board.
Okay. Now we're gonna come to one of my very favorite runes, not my most favorite, but probably my top three. It's Wunjo,
Wunjo.
Wunjo. I always call Wunjo the happy little flag of joy. The happy little flag. It completes our first 8. It means joy. It also has connotations of wishing, perfection, and is also associated with Odin, especially Odin's more benevolent aspects, a giver of blessings. It looks like Thurisaz. So you can see it's got the little triangle on it.
Mhm.
But while Thurisaz is a thorn, it's sharp and offensive. This is, like I said, a happy little flag of joy.
WUNJO.
Yep,
All right, okay.
sorry.
Wunjo.
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 In yours.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I traced the etymology of Wunjo. It linked to words of wish, win, and venerate. It's a rune of the will and the mind. And it's used to achieve what you truly desire and wish for. It encompasses, the quest for, self-growth, enlightenment, finding your path. All of those things are carried within this rune, and the quest for beauty, the quest for happiness, the quest for joy, all of these things are covered by this happy little flag with a little triangle on the top. So I'll draw it one more time. You guys can draw your roots.
You're so pretty.
Happy little flag. As you can see, I'm very fond of Wunjo. It's just okay. So we got through the first 8. We have 4 more to go for this class. So next slide. The second 8 is a little less happy than Wunjo.
Hell's 8.
It's Hell's 8.
Hell's 8.
Hel is the goddess of the dead. She is not a, Hel, a lot of death deities sometimes do get a bad rap because humans are afraid of death and dying. But Hel chose to go live among the dead because since she was half dead, half alive, the dead did not judge her and she did not judge them. And so she welcomes all the dead to her halls. So when people talk about Valhalla and all that, I don't want to go to Valhalla. You fight all day, you drink mead, you die, and then you go back the next day and do it all over again. No, give me a cup of mead and my, ancestors and, chance to hang out and just relax and have a good time. I don't need to go kill people all day, every day for all eternity. Just my opinion, but that's my feeling on Hel, and that's my rant on Hel. Okay, but here in Hell's 8, we move into the realm of what challenges us, what pushes us forward, and what makes life exciting. All the tools of the first 8 are at our disposal as we deal with the challenges innate to the second 8 runes. Many lurk here, as you will see. The Norse and Germanic worldview is not all sunshine and rainbows. Yggdrasil, the world tree, is beset with danger and suffering like no other world tree I've ever encountered in mythology. And some of those dangers that beset the world are echoed in these 8 runes. The runes of the second 8 of Hell's 8 are Hagalas, Nauthiz, Isa, Jera, Iwas, Pethro, Algis, and Soilo. So next slide. Hagalas.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I'm confused. Hell's 8 is, you said it's a goddess,
Mhm.
right? It's
Yeah.
not a rune.
No,
Alright,
It's the next.
it's the next 8 runes. So the first 8 were phrase 8. The next ones are Hell's 8, and the final ones are gonna be Kyr's 8, which we'll
Say
attend
no
next
more.
month. So yeah,
I'm caught up, thank you.
no problem. Hagalas. Like Hell, Hagalas often get a bad rap in runes, which I don't think it deserves, but it kind of does. In the same way that the Tower card in the Tarot kind of earns its reputation. Hagalas is Hell's rune, it's the hailstone, and it's the cosmic egg. This is the 9th rune in the runes. 9 is a very magically potent number in Norse and Germanic tradition. 9 comes up with Odin, as we heard, hung on Yggdrasil for 9 days and 9 nights before he could take up the runes. The road to hell takes 9 days and 9 nights. And of course, there are 9 worlds bound together on Yggdrasil, which is sometimes referred to as the gallows tree because Odin died there to get the runes. So you see where 9 is very powerful, but there's a lot of overtones here of death and danger because, hey, it's German heathenry. Hagalas can be a baneful rune or a benevolent one, and it can be a little of both at the same time. It can carry curses, bad weather, the essence of our fate, and the potential of our future. Whether that future is good or bad, ultimately is up to us. It's a very powerful rune and requires careful handling. Just as you have to be careful if you are in a thunderstorm with hail pouring down on the sky, or to put this into Florida terms, this rune is a hurricane. Hurricanes obviously are dangerous, but without the hurricane bringing in that water and moisture, a lot of plants would suffer. So you got to take the good with the bad with it. So it starts with our H. When I think of Hagalas, we get some hail here, but not a lot. But we definitely get hurricanes. So this is a hurricane rune. Destruction, change, and of course, as Alba could tell us, it's also the crone.
So does it does it represent like transformation?
It can,
It
yes.
can, okay.
What really is like, it's like an egg. It's a whole lot of potential,
Okay.
which can be unleashed. And whether that potential is for good or bad depends upon the choices that you make. And so it, usually for us, it does closely resemble the letter H. It's just a little more slanty, not straight across the middle. So go ahead and draw your rune. So, like I said, this is the next 8 runes. You get into a lot more cosmic forces. Where the first 8 deal with a lot of things dealing with our daily lives and the material world. Now we're moving into the bigger picture that surrounds us.
I'm putting little numbers on my like Scrabble tiles.
Oh, there you
The
go.
numbers mean more to me than the runes do now.
Okay,
So we'll grow together.
perfect. And you could do numerology with the runes. That would be a cool thing to see. I don't do much work with numerology, but
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Scrabble.
Did you,
4-player Scrabble game.
The only number that I heard was 9, the other has
Well, they're
numbers
in
as well.
order. We're doing
Well,
it in
they were
order.
doing them in
1, 2, 3,
order.
4, 5, 6, 7,
So 1, 2. So now this is the 10th room.
Looks like my little grandma's time.
So yeah, we're,
That's 1 point.
Double word score.
so next we have Nauthies.
Ah, with the X1.
How do you
Yeah.
spell now?
I'm gonna spell it right here. Nauthiz. Nauthies.
Nauthies.
What's a Z's?
Lots of Z's, yeah. I guess, they like their Z's.
No X's but Z.
Nauthies means need. Its shape is interesting because it closely ties in with its meaning. It's the shape of a person rubbing 2 sticks together to make fire. It's the need fire, exactly. So think of how desperate you would be feeling in a frozen landscape, sheltered against a narrow rock face, rubbing 2 sticks together, hoping for a spark of flame. Think of how strongly you would need that fire. Imagine how all the force of your will, your hopes, your very being would be hovering there on those 2 sticks, waiting for a spark while you shiver uncontrollably, the wind biting at you, the snow slamming into you, stinging like needles. That's the kind of need,
So
So it's like desperation almost.
absolute desperation.
I've never seen snow, so I don't know that reference. I was like, like reference from that?
Well,
It means cold.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but not that cold.
Okay, it's summertime in
how
in
valley
Florida,
would be.
and there's no AC nowhere near, and then the storm coming, so it's 120% humidity, and there's no water by you.
There you go,
And all we got
Louis.
is 2 sticks.
I know you got it.
And your last water bottle.
You are desperate.
It's frustrating, you're frustrated. It's a frustrated look.
There's frustration.
Into the cap. You can't get it all.
Yeah, yeah, you're trying to take the cap off that water bottle, it's not coming off, you need this
You
water.
keep slipping, and
Your hands are so sweaty, your palms are sliding off of it. Okay,
see, I felt that one.
so this is the kind of magic that Nauthies does best. It is when you have that need to survive and endure that drives you to new skills, new discovery, new strength.
I like that.
It's not a comforting rune, but it's heroic, and it speaks to a very simple form of courage and determination. Because you are going to open that water bottle, come
No
what
matter
may.
what. You need
Like,
You know what, I like the, you need, this rune, you need to show some patience. You
Yes,
can't figure it out, sleep on it. Don't push. It will come to you.
Desperation.
Desperation.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
motivation and
Yeah,
inspiration.
it's part of
They're not
teaching.
motivated,
You
so
need to be
desperation.
patient, or there's consequences on whatever you do. I like that.
You
exactly,
need to
yeah.
read the instructions and not try to build it.
Yeah.
We don't read instructions well.
Tell IKEA that.
No, they have to write the instructions.
Let me see the first one and the last one, what it looks like.
Yeah.
I got all the pieces, what it looks like. Okay, let me put it together.
I have no tools now. Gotta buy them.
Okay, so one more time.
So yeah, so this one more time, so it's one straight line and then a little slanting line moving across.
Oh,
You can go ahead and draw it. You haven't already?
a ver.
So yeah,
A ver, sticks.
the long stick, I suppose that'd be your water bottle, that's your hand trying to.
Cockeyed.
8, 9, 10, 15.
Yep, so that's number 10.
No.
And then after this one, it's gonna be one that's really tricky for Floridians. I will try to describe it as best I can.
Is it
Ice,
Ice.
yeah. All right, I will endeavor to describe it. And then we will translate into Florida terms.
We like our mojitos on ice.
Well, unfortunately,
I'm
this
from New
isn't that kind of
Jersey.
ice.
Like I can understand.
All right, so this is Isa. Which means ice.
Isa.
Big
All
old
right.
one.
I love that name.
Isa, right?
Isa.
It's pretty. All right, so Isa is a single straight line. It's an icicle, it's a barrier, it will stop everything in its tracks. In terms, it's also a bridge. It symbolizes sometimes the Bifrost, linking the worlds on the world tree. It speaks to us of the frozen beginning of the world. It says freeze, and whatever is around it stops moving. Now, I'm from Minnesota, so for me, I follow this rule because I just remember the really, really cold January days when the birches are stark against the white, the pine trees are completely bowed down with snow, everything is white, the wind is howling, the wind chill is 20 below zero, and your lungs are being stabbed with knives. But there is something extremely peaceful and quiet when the wind dies down and everything is just covered in snow, completely silent, completely frozen, and it binds you to that moment. And time seems to stop.
Freeze in time.
Which is why this rune is sacred to Verdandi. It symbolizes the present moment. It's beautiful in its own way, but it's sharp-edged and perilous like an icicle. Just one line up and down. Not much freezes here in Florida.
Sorry.
Yeah, I see.
So just think the absolute, okay, here we go.
It's like traffic
All
during
right.
rush hour.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know.
95.
I-95 at rush hour.
Why? Why?
It works.
Why did you go there?
Sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
And if you want to think of cold, imagine stepping inside to your air-conditioned home after being outside in August for 2 hours straight. That burst of cold.
Or
that just-
July.
Or July, either month will do. Okay? So that's it in Florida terms. Aren't you glad you're learning it here? Because most places will not translate these runes into Florida. The Florida rune.
This has to be a chapter in your book, Lady Florida.
Of course it will be. So you see how it works? So yeah, it's just one line straight up and down. Because everything, it just stops. Oddly enough, when I've done, twice now I've done readings about the Everglades, and this rune has come up. I think it's because we're being warned that we need to cut some things out as human beings and stop doing them.
You know what? I'm so happy I was just thinking that. When you
The
said it
river
loud.
of grass is stopped.
We need to
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
We've stopped the natural flow of the waters, and it's causing magical reverberations that are
Mhm.
Yeah.
hitting us very hard and probably cursing us with I-95
Yeah.
and I-4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the DMV.
95 has been cursed.
Something cursed it. I don't know what, but something definitely did.
Can
Especially.
probably take a look at history.
Well, those,
You can tell.
still working on those streets. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so now we're on to rune number 12, which will be our last rune of the night.
Oh, oh.
And this is Jera. Not quite the same, but it's the only one that has it both front and back.
Jera.
So this is Jera. As the 12th rune, this is the halfway point of the Elder Futhark, and thus it is the final rune of Rune Crafting Part 1.
What is?
And we'll be doing the last 12 runes in February, in Part 2.
Sorry, did you explain this one?
I'm gonna explain it right now.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No,
It's not over yet.
It's It's okay, it's okay. I'm just letting you know that we're stopping here because it's the halfway point, and we'll finish with the second half later, and here's why. It's because of the meaning of this rune. It refers to the wheel of the year, the harvest, and time. It is a rune of gentle change.
Gentle.
Compared to the two previous runes, it's a lot less frightening. It's much more hopeful because it promises you that you have survived another year and more is to come. It is the things that you have planted and sown will return to you one day if you are patient and you give them time. Its magic contains the death and rebirth of the sun, the planting, the growing and harvesting of crops. All of these long-term processes and goals. Amethyst, you were talking about, doing dedications and things at Imbolc. So Jera would oversee like the process of like a year and a day. It would be the rune that you'll want to cover for that entire span of time. Our English word year, the German word Jahr, sorry, and Jera are all descended from a common Proto-Indo-Aryan root word, yarrow, which means year.
You can also see that as a yin and a yang,
Mhm.
top and bottom. I
Yep.
like that.
Exactly. While most runes have a single series of connected lines, this one has two halves which dance around each other. And in the Northern European tradition, the year has a winter and a summer. So one represents winter and the other represents summer. And the two of them dance around each other in an endless cycle of the seasons, which is why I say it often works well with a lot of people in modern day celebrate a wheel of the year in pagan traditions. This symbolizes that wheel of the year, which is constantly spinning and going around and around. So all that goes away, comes around again. And on that note, we will end the first part of rune crafting and come around again in February to finish our rune.
February what?
February 9th,
Yeah.
we will be doing rune crafting part 2. On March 8th, we'll be doing a class on divination using the runes called Up from the Well of Ord.
Slow down, slow down.
Mhm.
Need to put the night to be here for that.
February 9th
The 9th, yeah, what I'm
is
here.
going to be rune crafting part 2. We're going to finish the runes with the second half of the Elder Futhark.
Okay, I added there.
That's finishing the room.
Yep, so we're going to finish
And in March is the March what?
March 8th.
March 8th.
It's rune divination, Up from the Well of Erd. A reference to, of course, the well where Odin took the runes from.
Is that on, that's Zoom or?
That will be here and on Zoom.
So it's like the second Friday of each month?
Mostly, and then the
Mostly.
12th of April,
Okay,
we're gonna have patterns of rune magic. That's where we'll be studying all the associations and spell works and things. May 10th,
Wait, okay, what was March? I'm sorry.
that's okay. March is rune divination,
But no, the date.
March 8th.
Okay, thank you. I'm
Yep.
sorry.
So March 8th. And then April 12th.
And that's also, April 12th is also.
Yeah, all of
present?
these are gonna be here and on Zoom. Yep, all of these will be both Meet Hall and Zoom.
That means magic. Sorry.
So rune magic is April 12th.
March has to be this February, but no.
Well, it's a leap year this year.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
it was, my brain was going crazy.
Yeah, so April 12th is rune magic. We'll be looking at different ways to work with the runes magically. Then May 10th, really looking forward to this, it's gonna be so much fun. Chanting and dancing the runes, May 10th. We're gonna be working, there's a thing called rune yoga.
Ah, I don't know.
I don't know about that.
We don't have to get down on the ground.
Rather not.
Well, women, how many girls? Well, maybe.
I mean, listen.
I make correction, I might show up, I might be a straggler.
Well, a slightly simplified version that won't involve bending and twisting so much.
Yin yoga.
I'll be in the back, so.
Yin yoga.
And then.
Sorry.
Okay. So that's May 10th, chanting and dancing the runes.
Do dancing.
Okay. So if you don't want to do the dancing, you can still come for the chanting.
You can watch the dancing.
Or you can just, use your hands. Just like, jazz hands. And then on June 14th. June 14th
That's like.
is the last day, is the last class. And all I'm gonna say is it's called Pulling It All Together. I'm gonna have a special surprise for you that day. It's gonna be fun, you're gonna love it.
All right, you are my calendar.
All right, thank you, Lulu. I am honored to be in your calendar.
I wrote it down, I don't do that a lot.
I got it in a calendar.
So that's the first class, so we'll be back again. Now, next month, we're gonna get the rune sets finished and we'll do the blessing of them and everything as well. So any questions for me as of right now?
No, thank you very much for taking the time
You're
This was
welcome.
great, thank you.
and teaching us.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. All right.